So I got this piece of sycamore, 12 by 12 by about 3-inch piece from a eBay seller from North Carolina. It's still a little green. It was well waxed and everything like that. It's got some nice spalting in it. So I used my bowl gouge and a carbide tool just to get it round. And now she's running nice and round, and we'll start forming the bowl. This will be the bottom of the bowl. The other side will eventually be the inside. Of course, we're going to make a foot so we could hold it in a chuck. When you're at this stage of the game with a big piece, like this is about the max size for my lathe, about 12 inches in diameter, turn between the points as much as you can. Give it that little extra. I just have a worm screw in the other side that's held in the chuck. So that holds it nice and secure, because this thing was, I cut it round on the bandsaw, but you know, how round could you get it on the bandsaw? So that's step one. Okay, this first phase is finished, which is the bottom part of the bowl, or platter bowl as it's going to be. This sycamore isn't too exciting. I have it sanded to 400 and 3 coats of my sanding sealer on it. Not sure if I'm going to color it or just leave the wood. Sycamore isn't really known for its beauty. I'll just be thinking about whether I'm going to color that or not. Decisions. Okay, so I turn this around and it's sanded and sanding sealer. It's 420 and put the sealer on it. So there's our profile. We have a OG shape and then a slight dome on the top. Now, I intend to color this surface and carve my bowl in here. I'm still thinking, because of the not liking of the sycamore. Just don't like it. I don't know, it's kind of boring. I may color the back. One of the things I have noticed here is I have some cracks, you could see, along here, over here. And I guess when you get these big globs of wood that are cut from God knows where, this is what you got to deal with. But it's wood, you know. It's not metal. There's another crack here. So there's 3 decent cracks in this thing. Hopefully they won't spread out too much. But like I said, I don't think this thing is too dry anyway. But so that's what we have. Okay, as you can see, I have my worm screw back in, and the bowl is mounted bottom out again, which could only mean one thing. After sleeping on it and consulting with several psychics, and I decided to color this sycamore. Now, the thing with working with wood is nature does most of the work for you. Nature makes these beautiful patterns and whatnot in woods, and we as artists have to bring it out. But there's sometimes where the wood can be made better by becoming a canvas. Sycamore, I guess this is why we make these colored projects with sycamore, is the grain is kind of like sometimes some maple is You know, cocobolos and some of the other exotic woods, including some domestic woods like American black walnut and such, has really good grain, and we like it. But in any event, we're going to color this. Now the top of this is going to have a black background and iridescent paints on the border, and then the ball turned in the middle. So I want, even though this piece can't be viewed both sides simultaneously, it will be picked up and looked at and so forth. So I do want the colors to at least be in the same family of colors as what I'm going to be doing on the top side. I'm using artisan spirit dyes. You can get these in powdered form. There's water-based and mineral spirit-based. These are I'm sorry, denatured alcohol-based. These are the alcohol-based. They don't raise the grain as much as the water-based ones do. They'll still raise the grain a bit. And I buy these online from craft supplies. These are really good. I've used these before. I've used these on other projects. I have 3 coats of sanding sealer in here. Now what we're going to do is we're not really going to mind too many irregularities because we're going to use several colors here and then blend them all in. The first thing I'm going to do, however, the top is going to be black. So I'm going to paint the inside, get the inside of the bottom of this foot black, and also run some black on this very outer edge. And in order to do that, I just use my India ink, which is the best in black, I think. Goes on very well. And this will only take a second. Okay, so you can see I'm doing the darker heartwood or sapwood or whatever the hell it is with my first coat of yellow. I'm trying to follow the shape of the grain pattern, but it's not critical as to stay in the lines because this is all going to be blended together anyway. What is fairly important is you go at this with a fairly dry brush. I dip my brush in the bottle, but I use the rim of it because you don't want to leave a run. You don't want it just dripping down, running on the wood. And when the wood is sealed like this, it'll tend to do that if you're not careful. So this is literally like some people say watching paint dry, but this dries quick. You can go over it with a a hair dryer or something like that to help it a little longer. But all right. As you see here, I've kind of gotten ahead of myself. My apologies. I put 3 different colors on. I used the aquamarine, I used some magenta, and I used some yellow. And yeah, it kind of looks like a clown suit. What the trick is after that, and after this dries somewhat, you reactivate this dye by using a paper pad soaked with the lightest color, and this is how you want to start blending the entire piece in. And what this does, this takes all of your colors and blends them together. Now some people do this with maybe another color. I want to kind of keep the colors that I have in the scheme. We'll have to do a little bit more down here. Simply because they're the colors that closely match what's the iridescent paints are going to be. And you can change this a lot in this manner by doing it this way You go with the grain, against the grain, in all different directions. And what's good about this, there really is no mistakes to be made. If you don't like it, you take some sandpaper to it, you sand it down, and just start all over again. All right, here it is, with a couple of coats of lacquer on it. I did darken it a bit with some blue. You know, I thought this aquamarine was more of a turquoise, but it's more of a greenish than a turquoise, but that's all right. It still kind of fits in with the scheme here. So this will get sand in and another couple of coats of lacquer, and then we'll go around and we'll get the other side done. But that's coloring with aniline dyes. Give them a try, man. And if they don't have the color you want, you can mix them and make your own colors with them. So now you see it turned around again, and we put a 2 coats of gloss black on the front, and now we have to turn the bowl. Okay. I want to do and it's running true enough for the girls I go out with. We'll be cutting new surfaces anyway. Okay, amidst a pile of chips and shavings and whatnot, didn't take very long. We got our bowl hogged out here, or hogged out. It's actually cut out very nicely, and you could see this dark veinous something in here. So we sand this down. I'm going to take this down to 600, and then I'm going to use a triple E finish on it and the ultra sheen, but I'm not going to do that today. I want this paint to dry really good. I'm not saying it's tacky, but you got that smell, and I don't want to make a bunch of dust and stuff that's gonna, so I'm going to let this dry overnight. And now we're in the final phases of decorating with our iridescent paints around this inside of these 2 rims here. Now the paints I'm using, hard to get. I got these from eBay. See what we get in there. They're called Joe Sonia iridescent paints. And I have them lined up like that for a reason, because I have just small amounts of each color in these vials here, but as you can see, they all look white at this stage. So if you're going to be blending colors and whatnot, and you're using these paints, you better know which one is which. Okay, so that's why I have these laid out in how they are. So we're going to thin them down with water, and we're going to show you how we apply these. Alright, to get started here, I want to show you a technique that comes to me from a friend all the way from Scotland by the name of Rob Lowe. And he introduced me to this technique. And it's beginning with your colors, just kind of blobbing them on there, and you can see they're white until they hit the dark background. And then instead of just leaving them like that, we take some air. He uses an airbrush with nothing in it. I don't have an airbrush, so I just use sprayer. That's used for cleaning keyboards and whatnot. And keep the paints thin. First color I'm starting with is violet, as you can see. Keep this paint thin here. And it's really just a matter of just getting some color where you want it. Let me just throw some blobs of paint on there and blow. So anyway, after that fussing about, this is basically what we have. And as these colors dry, they will they appear different when they dry. They intensify when they dry, so you don't want to put too much on. This is just a so that's how it's applied, thinned out with some air, and you just kind of go around the perimeter. And then when this dries overnight, I'll get some another coat or two or lacquer on it. And here is the back side, colored, finished, and lacquered. And here is the top side. What's a shame about these wood imperfections, but you get yourself a nice clear piece of a boring colored wood and turn it into something really pretty. Give it a shot.